Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Larry McIntosh, and I'll be your host for the next hour and every Saturday morning from 8 to 9. I want to give you an update on Peak of the Market's TV commercial auditions. As I mentioned before, 312 children auditioned with me at the end of May. An outstanding turnout. It was unbelievable at Polo Park that day for their chance to be in a TV commercial with myself. Our volunteer media judges had a very hard time, but they've narrowed it down to 12 screen tests now. So we have 12 finalists, and this is where you come in. Those 12 auditions are now on peakmarket.com for you to view and vote on. The children that receive the most votes will appear in a Peak of the Market TV commercial this summer. And all you have to do is visit peakmarket.com, watch the 30-second screen tests, and click on Vote for Me, which is the link for the child or children that you want to see that you think should be in a TV commercial. So you can vote every day, once a day, but you can vote for multiple auditions because obviously 4 kids will be in it. The top 4 winners will be announced on August 7th. Once again, go to peakmarket.com and watch the screen test and vote for whatever child you think should be in the TV commercials. My guest this morning is Big Daddy Tazz. He's often described as one of the most talented comics in the business. Good morning, Tazz.
Good morning. And I'm also auditioned and I didn't get in. I'm very upset with Peak Market.
Well, because we checked your ID and you're not 6 to 12 years old.
Yes, but mentally,
Mentally,
I am way below 6 to 12 years old. Oh, some Lego just fell out of my pocket.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very well. So people know you from being, you do a lot of corporate events. Mm-hmm. You've been on TV. You've been at comedy clubs. You're everywhere.
I'm almost everywhere. I like to be involved in the community in some way and just be out there. I get really bored if I don't wake up needing to do something. My whole day seems shot. I just wander around, not knowing what to do.
So, do you ever go to a breakfast and early in the morning and someone says, "Tell me a joke"?
Well, yeah. Ironically, I just did a thing yesterday I presented for one of the local community clubs, and they said, "Oh, and it'll be funny." And I'm like, "No, it's 7:15 in the morning, right? There's not a lot of funny happening at 7:15 unless you're my son, and then everything's hilarious at 7:15 in the morning."
So, as a comic, do you find it harder to be funny in the morning? Are you used to being up late at night, or?
I used to be when I was doing a lot of clubs and bars and stuff when I first started my career, almost like 26 years ago now, and I would be up later, and I found morning things to be a little bit harder. But now I just like being I just like being funny. I like making people laugh. It doesn't matter what time of the day. If you're going to listen to me, I'll try to make you laugh. It doesn't matter if it's 35,000 people at a country fest or one person at Safeway by accident. Right?
So 26 years, is that what you just said?
About 26 years, yeah.
26 years of doing this.
Yes.
Do you find it hard to be fresh? Do you find it, or do you get to use the same material over and over again?
Well, I do have a bank of material that I use over and over again, as somebody who's seen my show knows, which would be you. But I do. I have a 6-year-old and a 19-year-old because I'm good at relationships, right? And so life in general just gives me all kinds of neat stuff to talk about. So I try to make it as fresh and on spur of the moment as I can.
And Shelley and I have seen you on several shows. And when you don't do a certain joke, you actually have people from the crowd saying, "Say that joke," because they love that particular joke that you're kind of known for, maybe.
Yeah. There's a few of them where people come up and go, "Okay, can you do this joke?" Well, I wasn't planning on doing it, but would you? Yes, but are you going to? Well, now I have to, right? I mean, there's a one that I talk about my son having attention deficit disorder, ADD, and he wanted to be an auctioneer, and that sort of seemed to be. Turned into a signature bit, and I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and go, "I have a blue bike," which is of all the hundreds of hours and thousands of hours and jokes that I've told over the course of my career, "I have a blue bike" seems to be the one line that everybody remembers out of my act.
And maybe before the show goes on, we'll have you tell that entire joke. Is it a 6 minute? Because we have to fit into a segment.
6 minutes? No, not.
It won't fit? Oh.
6.5 minutes is me just saying, "Hello, welcome."
So, 26 years ago when you started this, what made you get into this business?
Well, I knew when I was 8 years old that I wanted to be a comic.
Really?
I saw Dean Martin talking to Carson on Carson, and they were just laughing so hard, and I just loved the fact that you can make somebody laugh. And I was using laughter already because I got bullied a lot when I was a kid. And at home, too, wasn't a great home sort of dynamic. But I knew if I made my mom and dad laugh or if I made the bullies laugh, they sort of left me alone. And then it sort of became the norm for, what's Tazz going to say? Or the teacher would say something. And I remember one time the teacher said, "Oh, this is a phenomenon." And I said, phenomenon. And she goes, phenomenon. I went, do, phenomenon, do. And then all the way to the principal's office. I mean, that sort of, I wore a trail to the principal's office.
You found yourself there a lot, did you?
Often.
Really?
Often.
That surprises me.
No, it shouldn't. Look at me.
But you did very well in school.
I did. I did okay. I did okay in school. I had I have ADD, which makes it very hard to concentrate for long periods of time. Just as I'm looking at what's going on in the control booth over there, so it was very hard for me to focus. And back in the 70s and early 80s when I was going to school, there was no medication. There was the strap, which, let me tell you, way more effective than medication. But it was just hard for me to concentrate, and I got bored quite easily in school. I needed to be, mentally stimulated, and school wasn't doing it for me.
And we've probably come a long way since then. The teachers are recognize it more probably and deal with it better, do you think? Or
I think what happened is they went through a stage of not knowing what it was, and then diagnosing every kid with it, right? And then sort of now, there's a direct correlation between what we're putting in our foods and how ADD kids are and things like that. So I have my own personal views that probably will not reflect those of the Pika Market or CGOB in any way about education and how to deal with kids with invisible disabilities or whatever you want to call it, ADD, OCD, depression, anxiety, that sort of thing. But I think we are doing, as a society, we're doing a lot better with it because we talk about it.
We'll be right back with Big Daddy Tazz after we take this break for your 680 CGOB weather update. Welcome back to Food and Friends. Please follow us on Twitter at Peak of the Market for recipes and Manitoba veggie crop updates. We have over 100,000 Twitter followers from all over the world, and we'd love to have you join us too. Again, we are at Peak of the Market, or my Twitter account is at Larry McIntosh. We're back with Big Daddy Tazz. So you had something to say. I saw you waving your hands.
Well, I was just going to, I have 9 Twitter followers, and 3 of them are me with other accounts. I'm just going to add you at Peak of the Market. I'm just going to tweet while we're here.
Yeah, perfect.
There you go.
There you go. Now people will be following you.
Oh, that's it. I got to start growing vegetables. You have 100,000. That's crazy.
Well, because people want to hear what the guest says, and they want to hear about you.
No, they want the recipes.
Well, they want the recipes too. You're right. They do want recipes. Absolutely.
About 90% of the recipes that I've tried are fantastic, and the other 10 just are. I put the vegetables in that you said, and I just don't like those particular vegetables. Like anything with sweet potato, right? I try to put the sweet potato in. That's wrong. It's either a potato or sweet. It's not. No offense to any farmer people out there, but
none is taken because we actually don't grow sweet potatoes in Manitoba.
Oh, thank goodness!
And it's not actually a potato; it's more related to a carrot than it is a potato.
Excellent!
It's a bad
I tried
name.
Yams too, and they're gross as well.
Yeah, well, same.
Oh no, the same thing. Okay.
Yams are actually here's. I know you didn't ask.
Tell me.
Yams are. You have to call it a yam. It has to be grown in the Caribbean. Sweet potatoes are grown everywhere else.
Okay. Well,
it's like champagne is from a certain part of France, right?
Yeah, but they're not. Champagne's very rarely made out of yams.
Not that often.
Not that often.
But vodka is made out of potatoes. But now we're going a totally different way.
Exactly. And then if you're in prison, we won't go there. Never mind.
Let's talk about you.
Okay.
So
that's
off air, we were talking that you've had some health issues. Can you share with our group?
Oh, I ended up having another heart attack June 7th of this year. So
very recent.
It was very recent. Yeah, and it was more embarrassing than anything else because I know whose fault it was, right? Mine. And what had happened was, of course, 3 years ago I had a heart attack as well, and then I totally changed my lifestyle, my diet, and things, and then I was on the proper medication for my heart and the aspirin every day, and then was very, very diligent about things, and then sort of nothing else happened, right? So then I just sort of swung back into the old Tazz, thinking dim sum's a food group, and deep frying is a legitimate way of cooking things, and then this one was this one, Larry, it was terrifying. The last one was scary. But, there was a point where, and I'm not trying to be maudlin here or anything, but there was a point where I looked at my wife and thought, I don't think I can stand any more pain. I think the only way for the pain to go away is for things to end, right? I thought it was done. And if I knew then what I knew now, when people ask me, "Oh, back then, how was your heart attack?" The first one, and I said, the pain was about an 8. I know that was about a 3.
Oh, is that right?
Right, and I got, I don't know if I'm allowed to say hats off to the St. Boniface Hotel, or the hospital, hotel, whatever. It was a hotel for me for 3 days, but they were fantastic. I started having chest pains and the uncomfortableness that I had with my first heart attack. I was about a few blocks away from home. I was actually driving, and I phoned my wife on Bluetoothed it, and I said, find me an aspirin and see if you can find my heart spray, because I wasn't even carrying my heart spray anymore, because after 3 years you think, hey, I'm back to being invincible, right? Got home, it got worse. We called an ambulance. In the ambulance, I was having it, but pains, but they were going away. So I thought I was just having an angina attack, which everybody was okay with. They will just figure out what's going on with your heart. Got to the hospital and had a full-blown, just another massive sort of heart attack. My pain in my arm and down it was textbook, and I couldn't have been in better care. It actually happened while I was at the hospital.
So because it happened at the hospital, you probably got immediate care, obviously.
Oh, definitely.
And that probably helped quite a bit.
Yes, very much so. I mean, they went in through my wrist and put another stent in my heart. And then they gave me the news that my circumflex, which is the sort of the outer artery, I believe it is, was blocked 99% again. Or not again, but it's blocked 99%. But then they checked on the other stent that they put in 3 years ago. It was already blocked 40%.
Oh, wow. After
3 years. So they said, well, your body, there's a lot of plaque going through there, and it's diet and exercise, And it was, I felt for a little bit that I've let everybody down. And not only, the important people like my family and things like that, and my fans, but I let myself down too. So it was a wake-up call. And I was at, a few months ago I was at 278. I'm down to about 250 right now, and just trying to do the right things, eat properly, walk. My little son Kyler is always about, let's go for a walk, let's go for a bike ride, let's do this. And so now I do that, right? Instead of just putting it off and making a peanut butter sandwich.
So that's about 5 weeks ago?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, it was. It was the beginning of June, and this is Saturday. So yeah.
So Shelley and I haven't seen you probably for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it was the last time.
Yeah.
And you look fantastic.
Well, thank you. I feel fantastic. I really do. The moment they opened up they put that stent in, I felt amazing. I was ready to go home that night. Of course, they don't want you to, because you're hooked up to machines and they're expensive. They don't want you to take those down the hall. Yeah, exactly. But I felt amazing, as I did with the first one. As soon as they opened it up, my cognitive was brighter. Everything was brighter. My life just felt better. So this time I vowed that it'll be a nice and shaped Tazz. The only thing is I can't I do a lot of jokes about my weight, and now once my goal is not to have any more jokes about my weight, right?
Right. We'll be right back with Big Daddy Tazz after this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. It's time for our recipe segment called Now We're Cooking. You don't need to write this recipe down, as it's today's recipe of the day at peakmarket.com and in the Winnipeg Sun, so you can get all the information from our website or today's Winnipeg Sun. Today's recipe is spinach stuffed chicken. Spinach stuffed chicken. Here's what you need for the recipe. 4 chicken breasts, skin removed. 1/2 cup of Gruyere cheese, grated. 1/4 cup of chopped walnuts. 1/2 cup of fresh spinach that's been blanched and chopped. 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. 2 eggs lightly beaten, a pinch of ground nutmeg, salt and pepper to taste, and 1/4 cup of fine breadcrumbs, and also 2 tablespoons of butter. With a sharp knife, make a horizontal cut in the chicken breast to form a pocket in the center. In a bowl, mix together the cheese, walnuts, and spinach. Spread the mixture evenly into the chicken breast pockets and dust with flour. In another bowl, beat the eggs with the nutmeg, salt, and pepper. Dip the chicken in the egg mixture and roll in egg crumbs until coated. In a skillet, melt the butter and cook chicken for 2 minutes on each side. Then place on a baking sheet and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 to 20 minutes. And this recipe serves 4. Again, this recipe, spinach stuffed chicken, is today's recipe of the day at peakmarket.com and in the Winnipeg Sun. And all the recipes on our website or in the newspaper have both metric and imperial measurements, so you can get all the information there. We also have over 4,000 recipes at peakmarket.com if you're interested in other recipes. We'll be right back with Big Daddy Tazz after we take this break for your 680 CJOB news, sports, and weather. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. I want to give you a quick crop update. Manitoba-grown kale, cucumbers, and zucchini are now available at your store. So the first 3 crops off, well, asparagus, which is already finished, but kale, cucumbers, and zucchini now at your local store. And now the exciting thing is by the end of this week, coming week, the following crops will be harvested: beets, broccoli, cauliflower, and green and red cabbage. So lots of crops. As I said, kale, cucumber, zucchini now. Coming up soon, beets, broccoli, cauliflower, and green and red cabbage. When you visit your local store, please support locally grown products. And as always, if it says Peak of the Market on the label, it is guaranteed to be grown right here in Manitoba. We're back with Big Daddy Tazz. So what's your favorite vegetable?
Well, you know what? I didn't even know what kale was. I thought it was the decoration that was in a buffet for the most part.
Used to be.
It used to be,
Yeah,
definitely.
it really did.
People didn't know how to, and it's fantastic for you. Now that I'm doing a lot of juicing and stuff, so kale and beets and stuff, I mean, you just said the crops that are coming off are some of my favorite: kale and cabbage and beets, and I mean, I'm just thinking borscht is coming.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Well, kale, and I've said it on the show before, so I apologize, but kale was one of those crops that's been around 100 years.
Oh, yeah.
But in the last couple of years, we've sold probably more than we've sold in the last 30 years before that. It's just people have started trying it. They're enjoying it. It used to be that green thing on the plate that kind of gave you some color in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You'd sit it aside, but it's good for you. It's a superfood.
It is a superfood. It's amazingly good for you too. I mean, I started juicing things and stuff, but you have to be careful when you're juicing too, because you don't want to be doing the oranges and the apples and stuff like that, because there's so much. They're still laden with sugar, right? And so I do a lot of there's a lot of beets and a lot of ginger and a lot of kale in the stuff that I'm juicing now. It's fantastic. I love kale.
Do you juice at home?
I do juice at home.
Yeah.
I do, very much so. And then when I'm on the road, I try to find a place that has is a natural juice place and not a smoothie place. And I don't want to offend anybody. Just I need the more of the juice stuff, not the smoothie stuff. My body's already full of smoothies.
So let's talk about your career. You started when you were young. We talked about that in the last half hour is what I was trying to say. That wasn't the last segment. That was recipes.
Yeah, the recipes.
We'll move on.
I wrote that recipe down.
Did you?
Yes.
Fantastic.
There we go. Spinach goes inside the chicken. Why don't
Yes.
you just feed the chicken spinach and then cook it? I mean, that's all I'm saying.
I was just happy to get through that cheese word because
Yeah.
I was intimidated.
Gruyere.
Yeah, I was intimidated by that word.
Man, I just would have said Gouda.
It probably would have worked fine.
Choose your cheese. Doesn't matter.
So you've done a lot of traveling with your career?
I have. I remember the first new car I got. I bought it with 8 kilometers on it, and then 9 months later, I had 127,000 kilometers on it. I was just driving everywhere. I was living at the time in Calgary, and then I was everywhere from to Vancouver and back and around and everywhere. So, Vancouver. Then I remember driving from Vancouver to Winnipeg to do one show, and then all the way back to the Vancouver Island to do another show. A day and a half later, because that's sort of the way the career was. But I travel all over North America now with my speaking and my comedy.
So I don't know a lot about comedy, although I laugh at myself sometimes. But doing a comedy club versus doing charity events or something at a breakfast we were talking last hour, they've got to be quite different, aren't they?
Well, they are. I mean, a comedy club is sort of open. Open. You can say pretty much whatever you want, and you can swear and stuff or whatever you want to do. I don't swear. I mean, I think it's beneath me to have to swear to get a laugh. I mean, I like to tell stories, and the stories themselves should get the laugh. And that's just my personal opinion. There are some very funny guys that are dirty. I'm just not.
Mm-hmm.
When you're and it's all about pleasing the crowd. I used to get in trouble. People go, "Oh, you're a chameleon. Your show changes for these people. It's not the same for these people." And I go, "I know, but it's not my job to be the artiste. My job is to entertain people." Now, if I look and there's kids in the audience, guess what? The show's geared toward the kids, right? And if you want to have kids in the audience, be prepared to know that most of my stuff is going to be geared toward the kids, because I'm not going to offend anybody. Mm-hmm. When I get out into the audience, I find the youngest person and the oldest person, and if they're both laughing when I'm done, my job is done, right? And you're right. I mean, you can go to a club and you're there for a week, so you can sort of see what's going on in the particular city that you're in. And then you can, by the time your week is done, you've tailored your show just to that crowd. But when you're doing out doing a charity thing or out doing a corporate thing, you have one chance to get it right. and I love it. I mean, I love the challenge.
I'm going to guess at a charity thing or a corporate thing, you don't get hecklers in the crowd and as much, or do you? Oh, do you?
You know what? I did a $1,000 a plate dinner one time. Now, let me rephrase that for those of you that are fundraisers. $1,000 a plate, and I had a lady yell out, "You're fat." And right away, I just looked right at her. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't answer right away. I thought it was my subconscious, right?" I think that's what it was like. And then she said to me, "You're probably not on medication." And I said, I go, "You're lucky I'm on medication." Like, what do you mean She says, because it says 2 hours before and 1 hour after, so there's probably never a window of opportunity for you to take your medication because you're always eating.
Wow.
And I thought that was the funniest thing anybody had ever. But I was the only one in the whole crowd. There was 800 people that just like, oh, looking at her. And
like I did.
I'm giggling. Right? But very rarely do I get hecklers anymore. I mean, I was at the beginning of my career, I was known as the heckle stomper, right? Guys would come in and they would send me back, and they come back into the office and say, "This club is terrible because they got a bunch of hecklers." And the next thing I know, I'd be out there trying to, calm them down, right? So it was fun.
So you have a vegetable joke?
I do
you
have
do?
a semi-vegetable
really?
joke.
I was throwing you on the spot there.
It was weird. I was this winter. I was kind of grossed out. Because I was at one of the major, one of the major grocery stores. I'm not going to tell you. It's not a mediocre store. It was pretty much a super store. And I saw a snowman there, and he was going through the carrots, and he was holding it up to his face and putting it down. He's holding up to his face, and he's putting it down. And my son goes, "What's he doing?" I go, "I think that's gross. There's a snowman over there picking his nose."
Oh.
Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum. Hey, I didn't say it was a good carrot joke.
But you did that off the top of your head.
I did.
That's fantastic.
That's what lives up here.
Math
doesn't live up here.
It's going around and around?
It does. There's a squirrel going this way and the other squirrel going this way, and hopefully they match up, and sometimes you'll see all sevens in my eyes. You're like, excellent.
Do you sleep well at night?
I do.
You can turn it off?
I write out my thoughts, right? And I have a piece of paper, a pad of paper beside my bed, and so I know that if I wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night, and I can write stuff down. So I prepare for, because I dream a lot of the stuff that I talk about, but I have a tendency to sleep very well at night.
Because a lot of your stuff is based on real life?
Most of it.
Embellishments. Embellishment. That's the word I was looking for.
I mean, very rarely do they let a snowman in the store. But
depends how the air conditioning is. But yeah,
they have to crank that air conditioning. I'm melting. But yeah, everything's got a little. I see something and I go, "Wouldn't that be funny if this really happened?" Or if there's and then you just get on stage and you talk about it like it really happened. And people like to come along for the ride. The juxtaposition of situations is what makes people laugh, right? So they'll just go, "Did that really happen?" But it's really odd too. But I get really weird things like, "Did you really have a heart attack?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I really had a." "Do you really have a mental illness?" "Yeah." "Oh, okay. So." Those are real? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make stuff like that up, right? But I will make up stuff that I saw of snowman, right?
We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. Food and Friends Radio is now on TV. Each radio show is filmed and will be posted at Mytoba.ca later this weekend. So if you want to see this TV version of this show or previous shows, please visit Mytoba.ca. And thanks to Chad, our cameraman, and certainly Nicole, who produces the show on behalf of 680 CJOB. And we appreciate you listening in. It's very important for us to mention that Food and Friends is only available because of 680 CJOB, I'm trying to rush, and its advertisers. So please make sure you tune in every Saturday. We're back with Big Daddy Tazz. See, I was trying to get to you, so I was just stumbling over my words
680
there.
680 is also it's my cholesterol count.
That's good that you have a sense of humor about your health issue.
Well, you know what? If you, I think that's the last thing that goes. I want that to be my last faculty that goes. I want my sense of humor to be there till the end, right? I really do, and humor makes everything easy to deal with, I think.
So let's talk about the world record that you set.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
I do. April 1st, 2008.
Approximately?
Yeah,
so tell our listeners about it.
Well, there was another comedian, American comedian named Dane Cook, who had done a 7-hour show, stand-up comedy show. And my friend over at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival said, you could probably do that. And I said, I probably could. And then the next thing you know, I read in the paper that I was going to try to break the record. And it was we had a fundraiser for the Winnipeg Harvest.
Right.
And we were trying to raise raise awareness and stuff. And I was so nervous. I mean, I spent days compiling 171 pages of point notes that we could have on a computer, so I could sort of look over and go, oh, okay, to refresh my memory. But you know what? We went out there, and every hour they were going to come out with a little plaque saying, 1 hour or 2 hours. And I think it was the first one came out. It was like 18 seconds. He has done 18 seconds, right? And it was great. I got so much support from the community, and I just, you know what? It was something I wanted to do to see if I could do it. And at the 8.5 hour mark.
8.5 hours.
Yeah, 8.5 hours. I did 8.5 hours, and then it was kind of funny. I wanted to go for 10, and then sort of somebody came and said, "Oh, we have a volunteer meeting here in like a half an hour. Can you wrap up?" I'm like, "Okay," and I was proud of myself because I was at 3 hours or 4 hours or something before I even looked at the monitor. I had somebody running the monitor, and at one point in time, I looked over and they were gone because I was just riffing away.
How many times did you repeat a joke?
Not once.
Not once.
Not once. You know what? And I got some really great emails, and my buddy, comedian Dean Jenkinson, sent me an email saying, "Do not ever think that you haven't done something that was amazing. You did a stand-up comedy show for 8.5 hours. It's not like you just talk for 8.5 hours. You put on a and I was moved to tears, as I often am. Anybody that sees me at any of the fundraisers, but it was something I am so proud of having done, And then they asked me, "Would you do it again?" I'm like, "Nope." The next day, all I wanted to do was sleep, and there was get a phone call from all over the globe, everywhere. Australia had given me a call and said, "We heard you had done this and that." And unfortunately, it didn't make it into the World Book of Records because we didn't have a notary of the public there.
Oh,
and it is what it is,
Yeah.
Later on, somebody else did like a 36-hour one, but it was the same hour show 36 times, and mine was one solid stand-up comedy. And I'm just, I'm very flattered when people remember I did that. And I remember my favorite line was when I had told everybody I had to go. I said, "I got a second show, so I need you guys all to leave." Right?
That is a good line. After 8 hours, you thought of that.
For sure. Yeah, that was it. And then I had to go to the washroom. That's what I had because there was no breaks. And away we went.
Wow. And you'd never do that again.
I probably, if it was for the right cause, of course I would.
Oh,
of course I would.
wow.
I mean, somebody came up and go, "Listen, I'll give so-and-so charity this amount of money if you do it." And I'm like, "Yep, let's do it." Right? I mean, I would in a second do it. Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge in your business?
I think staying fresh, right? And every morning you wake up unemployed, really, because I also have an agency now called Johnny Awesome Entertainment, so I'm not only responsible for myself, I'm responsible for other comedians and acts and things like that, and partnered up with Anders the Magician, a friend of mine, and we decided let's have a website for the clients as opposed to just trying to book acts. And so that's the biggest challenge now is just finding the work and just every day keeping myself happy, right?
How long has that been going on?
We started about a year ago. We just launched the website probably 4 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's johnnyawesome.ca, and it's going to be fun. The name says it all, right? Somebody goes, "Oh, I don't like the name Johnny Awesome. I think it's silly." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And then I'll phone him a week later. "What's the name of my agency?" "Oh, it's Johnny Awesome." I said, "Well, then it works." Right?
And what's the least favorite thing about your business?
The least favorite thing about my business is being away from my family.
Yeah.
I mean, my little 6-year-old is always we Skype every day, and I'm glad for the Skype and the FaceTime and stuff like that because I get to be with my family more. My oldest boy's 19, so when I went on the road and I was gone and that was the early in my career, I'd be gone for 6-8 weeks, and only be I'd talk to him on the phone and then have a good cry because I missed him so much. My boys are my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll pop over to Kai will pop over to his mom's place, and then like half an hour later, I'm like, "Oh, I miss him." Right? I mean, it's just nonstop silliness at our place, and I love it. But yeah, the hardest part is being away from your family.
Are you trying to slow down a little bit now and stay closer to home, or?
I'm trying to be smarter.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to they say don't work harder, work smarter. Right. But I'm working very hard to be smart. That's what I'm trying to do with my keynote now, and I go and I talk to kids and in schools and things like that. So I'm realizing it's not the money that I make, it's the impact that I make, right?
We'll be right back with Big Daddy Tazz after this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. My guest today has been Big Daddy Tazz. You know, Tazz, it's always a fun hour with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, we've been here 2 hours, so I don't know if there's only been one fun hour. I adore
It
you.
never stops.
It never stops. I adore you, Larry. You know that. And anytime you want me to come on the show, I'll come a running.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll go
well,
running.
You'll run?
Mosey.
Well, we appreciate that. So you're going to take a bit of summer off, and you got some things happening in fall?
Yeah, I do. Biggest one right now is Dine in the Dark, September 3rd for the CNIB. And you can go to the dineinthedark.ca, I believe it is, and or just Google it and come on out. It's great. We put on blindfolds and eat our veggies.
Can't get much better than that.
No.
Thank you, Tazz, for being on Food and Friends.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me. And thanks for letting me be a friend.
Please join me next Saturday, 8 a.m., when my guest will be Jackie Stephen, Executive Director of Jocelyn House and Jocelyn Hutton Foundation. Thank you to Nicole Bonnicap, our show's producer. Take care, and please, don't forget to eat your veggies.